Hello everyone, this is a video for symbols and symbolism. A symbol is anything that hints at something else. Usually it is an abstract idea or belief. A literary symbol is an object, a person, a situation, or an action that has a literal meaning in a story, but it could suggest other things as well. There are two types of symbols. The first is a general symbol, and this is just universal in its meaning. So when you look at this symbol, most often more people will be able to distinguish what it means. For example, the American flag could represent freedom, independence, or just the United States of America. A rose for most people means love, courtship, some type of romance. The second type of symbol is a specific symbol, and this is not universal in its meaning. It will be dependent on how is it shown in certain literal works. So you might have the same symbol, but depending on how the author uses it, could represent something completely different. For example, in To Kill a Mockingbird, the mockingbird represents not just a bird, but someone who is selfless and who is willing to stand up for other people even though it might place harm on themselves. So there are three things to do when you're looking to analyze or come up with what actually a symbol could mean. First off, you need to identify the symbol, noting if the object appears repeatedly, has an unusual, vivid quality, so how does it really stand out, how it is described with language conveying emphasis, or has more significance than just the literal meaning, so go beyond the obvious. The second thing you need to do is determine the symbolic meaning. Carefully examine how the symbol functions in relation to the story. What could it represent and how does it add meaning to the story? The last thing you need to do is classify the symbol. This may reveal opposite relationships such as good or bad, life and death. Symbols may also fall into isolated categories such as destruction or innocence. For example, in a lot of literature, there might be a lot of storms, violent whales or gales. All of these could represent destruction of nature. So for practice, what I want you to do is view the following clip from Beauty and the Beast. This is the scene where Belle looks upon the rose for the first time. Look at this setting around the rose. How does it enhance the symbol's meaning? How does it help the rose to stand out? And then finally, what do you think the rose could symbolize? Remember, a symbol has a literal meaning, so obviously it represents something, but it could represent something else. Not all symbolism is obvious. Oftentimes it can be subtle and indirect, and it's often up to the reader to determine what it means. Now you try, read the following passage. This is from Lord of the Rings. All this last day Frodo had not spoken, but had walked half-bowed, often stumbling, as if his eyes no longer saw the way before his feet. Sam guessed that among all their pains he bore the worst, the growing weight of the ring, a burden on the body and a torment to his mind. If you look at your context clues or your text features, ring is capitalized, which it should not be, so that denotes that it is of something of importance. When we think of what the literal meaning of a ring is, it means eternity. There's no beginning, no end. It often means tradition and marriage and commitment, but it has greater meanings in terms of this context. We see that it is a burden, it is heavy. A burden usually denotes that it's not just physical, but it could be emotional as well. This could be showing the complexity of its power, its allure, and the responsibilities on the one carrying it. So for additional practices, view the following clip from Cinderella. This is the scene where she meets the fairy godmother. What could the fairy godmother represent? Go beyond the obvious of just her transforming her clothes and putting her into a coach or a carriage. How does this change her life? And then how does this make a bigger symbol? Write your answer on a separate sheet of paper or turn it into your teacher depending on what they want, or you can just simply answer this for your own practice.